response to the responders, but also we will open the floor to comments or questions from the floor.
It's always dangerous to give a politician a microphone a second time. But the panelists were excellent. They made all valid points and helped in terms of the understanding of these issues in the dialogue. And as you can hear from them, there's no shortage of statistics about things that need to be corrected. And you know, we come to gatherings like this year after year, and we hear, well, if we would do this, or if we would do that, if we would raise the minimum wage up, or if we would increase the social welfare allowances, which I've noticed they're long overdue for it. In fact, most of the social allowance numbers are half or less of the poverty line. So there is so much that needs to be done. It needs to be done now. I agree with those who say, yes, there are things that need to be done now. It's probably going to take, if we go down the line of this basic income pilot project, that's probably about 3 years there. Obviously, things need to be done right now. And we should continue to press on that front. But what I frequently find happens is that we end up getting, maybe a half measure, maybe a quarter measure. It goes on for a little while, and maybe the government might take something out of this pocket of putting that quarter measure or half measure in. Very little progress is really made on eradication of poverty, or any serious alleviation of poverty. Now, as I said, poverty is a tough sell to politicians. I'm not saying all. Some of them, yes, will respond quite well to dealing with those issues, will understand it. But overall, it doesn't grip. It doesn't grip the government sufficiently to do what needs to be done. So, a few years ago, as I saw the mounting information about inequality, I added that into any time I talked about poverty, I talked about inequality. It's a major issue, it's a major factor in all of this, but it also brings in more people. It brings in more people who have a little more clout in their voting power, because it gets into moderate and to middle income people. And now we're seeing, and I think one of the reasons we're seeing, interest revived in a basic or guaranteed income, whichever you want to call it, virtually really the same thing. The revived interest is because people are experiencing the anxiety of paycheck to paycheck, on the verge of deep trouble in their lives, not sure about the future of their career, not sure about their pension. There's so many things that come into play to create an epidemic of worry. So I think that's why there's an increasing interest in basic income, so that a better floor for people to be able to move up from, to be able to get their lives organized from, rather than way down here in the anxiety and that goes with all of that, and the health care effects on one's life are enormous. So basic income, I think a lot of people are looking to that. Now, whether it turns out to be the answer or not, well, we'll have to try it through a pilot project. But I tell you, unless you want to keep coming back here year after year and say, well, if only we do this and if only we do that, and if we're going to do that same old stuff, we're going to continue to have the same small incremental band-aid results. I think we've got to explore a new way. And I think that's what this offers us. And you know what? If at the end of the day they find that after they look at the pilot project, they say, oh, well, I'm not sure this can work. It may not work. Who knows? Although I'm quite convinced the formula can be found to make it work. We will at least have educated an awful lot of people in this population about the needs of people that are in poverty, and people that are on the edge, that are in precarious employment, that are concerned about their future. So a new way, a new direction is, I think, something we need to explore. The old way has not worked.
I saw a hand over there.
Yes, I'm curious, I have two or three interrelated questions. First, how do you see the level of the basic income being set? And why do you think that it would not fall foul of exactly the same dynamic that leads to all of the income support measures that are in place now falling well below the poverty line? And would it not be the case that the same dynamic that is a problem now would still be a problem, which is that the public is viewed as consumers by the major political parties? They focused for 2 or 3 decades on cutting taxes, knowing that they were shredding the existing social safety net and that they were reducing the chance to do anything new. So give us some reason to be encouraged.
Well, I think we're coming out of that era. And I think the realities, as it is seen by people today, are bringing us out of that era of austerity, and out of the area, out of the time when tax was a bad word. We're not totally out of it yet. But what politician, like me or anybody, would stand up here and say tax is not a bad word? It's how we collectively invest in our future and put a little bit of money into gain a loss. Not too many politicians even now saying that, but we're beginning to see a paradigm shift, the Overton window shift in the other direction, at least in my opinion. The pilot project, and particularly the recommendations that come from Hugh Siegel in his report, first of all, anybody that would be in this pilot project would have to be there voluntarily. Now, nobody's going to go into a volunteer pilot project unless they're going to benefit from it more than what they have now. And some of the numbers, I don't recall all the numbers that he's come up with, but it won't get in the pilot project the people right up to poverty line, whether it's measured, if it's measured by one of the traditional means, but there will be a poverty line set. Okay? As I recall the numbers, they are substantially more, 50%, maybe 100% more than what people on social assistance are getting now, for example, or people on disability. Of course, it also would apply to the working poor. People can't be worse off. They're not going to buy into a program, and the pilot project isn't going to go anywhere. We may not get just as high as maybe it would be ideal to get in the first instance. Maybe it has to go a little bit slower than that. But I think this new direction will get new attention, new support, and it's better than the way we've been going.
Rabbi Shachter.
Question to the Senator. You mentioned that one of the ways to get influence is to be on the inside. You are on the inside. One of the, here's a recognition that the basic income can't stand alone. It has to be supported by other programs, and the pilot project itself is going to take a number of years before it can be implemented nationwide. So in the meantime, there's going to be calls for improvements in social assistance rates and social housing. Those things cost money, and we're going to have to fight for these priorities within provincial and federal budgets. But there was one thing that was mentioned by Mr. Sherry DeNovo, that won't cost money, and that's the change to the employment standards and the labor relations legislation. The provincial government has commenced a changing workplace review. I'm wondering, first of all, whether you would call publicly for the government to speed up and implement those changes, whether there is a similar investigation at the federal level, and if you're involved in that, and whether there are still opportunities for the public to speak to the federal politicians on that area, and whether there's a timeline for quick implementation at the federal level.
Well, I can't speak for the government. I'm an independent. We have similar political beliefs to the government, but we don't talk that much these days. In any event, yes, I think those issues. I remember doing a little bit of study on those issues a while back with the Canada Labour Code. I think they need to be addressed. Yes, there are what I would call pre-distribution and redistribution measures. Pre-distribution is helping people by businesses taking their responsibility. And labor law, government, of course, is involved with that too, is part of that. Also the minimum wage. Yes, let's raise the minimum wage. The $15 an hour proposition, I think, is quite reasonable. Let's have communities also continue to work on living wage. There's some cities in this world, it largely is a municipal kind of thing, at least its origins are. Living wage is very substantially part of London, England's programs. They have major machinery dealing with living wage. Living wage could also be something across this country. So there are those pre-distribution, and then when you get to the redistribution, that's coming out of the reforms to tax law and other programs and services that part of creating a greater equity. So yes, I agree with you. That should be done. I'd be happy to look at it. Why don't you send me some stuff on it, and I'll look at it further as to how I might be able to advance it through the Senate.
Diane, and then I think we've got time for one more question over on this side.
So, Senator, you mentioned in your address that the Minister of Finance is really looking at the tax reform and playing with it maybe at the edges. And I was wanting to ask about the power, do we have in government the power to address this multi-corporation? So you hear it, for example, in Europe, that governments want to fine Apple or Starbucks or these countries in Liechtenstein and in Holland and in Ireland, to Ireland's avoiding taxes by this 2% tax and so on. What I'm interested in is there a will amongst the OECD, a genuine will to, because this has been a long war with the multinationals, and I know even the American now is that Trump is also speaking about bringing this money back. So how strong is this force amongst country political leaders to take on the multinationals in this new way?
I frankly don't know. There are discussions, finance ministers of the G20 meet and the OECD, as you mentioned. How much discussion this has, I frankly don't know. There are a number of things that, yes, would require cooperation, because a lot of multinational corporations, of course, are offshore, are not accountable to any one government. And of course, nowadays, when products are manufactured, there's a bit from this country, a bit from that country. So it is quite a mixed situation. But there's also things that we can do here domestically. As I said, we haven't had a review of that tax system in over 50 years. It's time to have a major review of it. I appreciate Mr. Morneau is attacking some parts of it, but it needs an overhaul totally. It needs a very thorough examination. And there are things that some countries have done, and notwithstanding international, multinational corporation situations that can be applied. For example, financial transactions tax. That's something that I think needs to be looked at. The banks don't want to hear that, but I think that's something that could be done domestically, is done domestically in a number of countries now. It would be better if there was international cooperation in applying it, but there are things that can be done. To me, the bottom line is to make the tax system fair and progressive. And I think we can do a lot here in our own country.
I'm going to take one more question on this side, we'll be back, and then after that, I'll invite the panel if they've got any final comment and discuss.
Senator Murray, thanks very much for your address this morning, particularly your insights around advocacy and how we can all go back with our congregations, our organizations, and get people more involved. for championing those issues over the last number of years. I want to come back to what you responded to the panelists in terms of, we've seen the last number of years of best half measures and like the quarter measures, and maybe going in with a bigger idea, basically really making some headway on eradicating poverty. I wonder if you could expand a little bit. In our association, we don't find it very difficult to get in to see MPPs, to get in to see MPs, city councilors. We encourage everyone to make sure you visit them regularly. I think the bridge that's difficult to cross is the one you addressed. How to actually, once you're in there and you're doing the follow-up, just some further insights, how to actually touch them and expand the issue, because that always seems to be the biggest hurdle to getting some traction moving this forward.
Well, yeah. Okay, good question. All of those things that I suggested should be done. In other words, you need continuous effort, and you need to be organized. You need to have a plan. You need to have some goals and objectives. You need to use techniques like collective impact, working with other organizations, working with the cities and the towns in terms of the roundtable. All of those things to move the agenda forward. But you have to bear in mind that the people elected, the MPs or the MPPs who get elected, or the city politicians, they want to get reelected in most cases. They want to get reelected. So who is it that elects them? Who really comes up to vote? And that's where you've got to get people more involved with that. I mean, you can go and talk their ear off about some things like poverty, but if that's not who gets them elected, people, the poor or people that are ultimately very concerned about it, if they don't think that makes a difference, then it, I don't want to cast aspersions on their characters, because I think, a lot of them are well-meaning, but, well-meaning to the point, oh, here comes something else, and I'm off on that tangent. So you've got to keep it up, and you've got to look at the interests of the constituents. That's why I say when you bring in the inequality issue, you bring in a lot more people. Bring in more middle income. I use middle income, by the way. I have a hard time saying the word middle class. Not just because it's used extensively by my brethren over on the other side of Parliament, but I just don't think of Canada as a class society. I prefer not to think of it that way. But middle income people, I think, need to be more involved. The people that are in fact voters that are going to make a difference, and that person's getting reelected. Do a little bit of research here and find the angles.
Did our panelists want to weigh in on any of the questions or comments that have come from the floor?
Well, just
Yeah.
well, just very, very quickly. One thing that, the shadow hanging over the room, of course, is what happened in the American elections, where I have no problem saying, I don't think it was democratic, we now have a fascist in the White House. I think we live in a historic time which demands courage and resistance. I think this is biblical. There is such a thing as righteous anger. I think you should be righteously angry about poverty. And if you don't want to see the same thing happen here that happened south of the border, then we better get angry and we better do something about the poverty and the disparity between the classes. And I do believe we live in a class-based society. I remember Covenant House ran a series of ads, and they were powerful ads, with a little child, toddler, sitting in a shelter, sitting in a bus shelter. And the heading was, how young do they have to be before we give a damn? Another biblical word, give a damn. And make sure that everyone in your congregation is seeing their MPP and their MP with demands. Although it's a great idea, we support it for guaranteed annual income, as long as it's high enough. Remember, that's the thing. Otherwise, it's just it's just a bomb to bad employers. But we also need all the other policy pieces too, and those policy pieces are much easier to get going. They've been in place, some of them in the past. We can get them again very quickly. So yes, be active, and it's part of our faith to do so. You heard the rabbi saying that, and with that, I have to go. But keep on keeping on. Thank you.
support what the Senator and Sherry and Kaylee and Rabbi also said was that a basic income cannot stand alone. We absolutely agree that you need all of the social programs. We need pharmacare, we need affordable child care, we need affordable housing, we need a good healthcare system. But to me, a basic income is not just about eliminating poverty. It is about social justice in its broadest sense. It will better society, it will create a more just society, and it will also, it's a way to social emancipation as well. It increases the autonomy and independence of women in particular, and marginalized disadvantaged groups. Thanks.
Two quick points. As you're getting righteously angry, don't get angry with each other. We've seen south of the border, and it's starting here, if it hasn't been here forever already, that we are getting angry with each other and blaming other people for our own situations when in fact we could all be working together to build something completely different. So I think that's really, really important. And maybe to sort of build off of that is the way I kind of think about a basic income is with universal access is much like people access our universal healthcare system, where everyone has access to the service or the treatment that they need when they need it. So someone who is working in a low-paying job can have the support of a higher minimum wage, better scheduling laws, access to a permanent position instead of a temporary position. If you are unable to find a job at this time because our economy is not producing them as fast as they could be, there is a basic income there for you to rely on. If you are in school and having trouble paying your tuition, the list goes on and on. But this idea that we can all access different pieces of it when we need it, but it doesn't mean that everyone's getting exactly the same treatment, is something I think that we really need to continue to consider.
Did you want to add any further comments to what you heard? On behalf of the group, I want to acknowledge Senator Eggleton and our responders who have been with us today. Senator, you have opened up a whole conversation with us today, which will continue. Certainly this topic has been one that is gaining momentum across our communities and across the various places where we hold discussions. For those of you who brought further refinements or lived experience from your particular expertise, we appreciate that. We need to continue to have this kind of a conversation. Yesterday I was at an event where basic income was being discussed, and the speaker who presented it was not entirely sure of what the ideologies were of the gathered community that were there. And so she finished by saying, this basic income is not about left or right, it's about going forward. And so perhaps that is the phrase that we need to keep in front of us as we continue to have this conversation. So thank you, all of you, for being with us today.